Beneath every suit of power armor sits a frame holding the individual pieces of the armor. Powered by a TX-28 microfusion pack, charged by fusion cores, and held up by high-flow hydraulics and internalized servos, the frame of a set of power armor is what gives the wearer their superhuman abilities. Without the frame, power armor would just be what regular metal armor is, protective but bulky and unwieldy. Power armor frames have proved so useful that Proctor Ingram of the Brotherhood of Steel lives in one full-time, using the frame's legs as prosthetics after losing her own. The T-45D was the first model of powered combat infantry armor to be deployed by American forces. First beginning development in August of 2065, the armor was quickly forced into service in 2067 in response to the Chinese invasion of Alaska. While it offered unparalleled protection, the T-45's hasty development meant it launched with numerous issues. Joint lockups, faulty electronics, and a welding error on the lower portion of the chest plate. Still, the US would use the T-45 for nearly a decade until the deployment of the T-51B, and the 45 still sees use by the likes of the Brotherhood of Steel and the New California Republic after the apocalypse.
Listen up, you goddamn puke! You are now wearing prototype medic power armor! You take care of me, and I'll take care of you!
The MP-47A medic power armor was a prototype suit of T-45 power armor produced by the US military before the Great War. Built with an onboard AI, the medic power armor was made to be an automated doctor to the soldier wearing it, administering medics to and shouting patriotic phrases at the user during combat. Only one suit was ever known to have been built, which was captured by the Brotherhood of Steel and issued to an initiate on an expedition to Old Oni, where the town's Deathclaw population proved too much for the suit's healing abilities. The EXC-17 Excavator suit was a set of power armor created by the Garahan Mining Company to shield their miners from the dangers of a job site and allow them to be more efficient when retrieving ore. Designed by Harold Frost, who had previously worked at Westtech on the T-45 project, the armor used black titanium to strengthen the limbs in an ultracite reactor, allowing it to mine literal tons more than an unarmored worker. Sadly, the excavator armor would be disgraced after losing a rigged mining competition to rival company Hornwright Industrial's auto miner robots, leading to Garahan being absorbed by Hornwright, and the excavator armor project being shuttered. In the ruins of Pittsburgh, a group known as the Union has come into possession of a suit of power armor, simply known as Union Power Armor. While its exact origins are unknown, there seem to be two distinct possibilities for Union Power Armor's creation. The first one is that the armor existed pre-war, serving as a way to improve the efficiency of steel mill workers, similar to the excavator armor. The other possibility is that the power armor was designed and built post-war by the Union using their functional steel mill, created in order to fight the Fanatics Raider Gang. The T-51B was the pinnacle of pre-war power armor technology. An improvement on the T-45 in every way, the T-51 was tested at Fort Strong, Massachusetts, testing its ability in urban combat. In June of 2076, these suits would be deployed to the American counter-invasion of China, immediately proving its superiority over its predecessor. Helping to liberate Alaska from communist control in January of 2077, the T-51 would be used to quell riots in the States and annexed Canada until the end of the world on October 23, 2077. Even after the bombs, though, the T-51 remains a favorite of the Brotherhood of Steel. Ultracite Power Armor was designed as a collaboration between the Lost Hills and Fort Defiance chapters of the Brotherhood of Steel. Using Ultracite, a mineral unique to the Appalachia region, the plans to create a suit of T-51B with modified plating were drawn up by scribes Haley Takano of Lost Hills and Grant McNamara of Appalachia. A production model would never be produced, however, as before construction of one could begin, the Appalachian Brotherhood would fall to the Scorched Plague.
What kind of model is that? It's the T-60.
First developed following the liberation of Alaska, the T-60 Power Armor was created to improve upon the flaws of the T-45. While some of these persisted, like the chest plate welding error, the T-60 proved itself a suitable successor, being deployed across America to attempt to keep the peace right up until the end of the world. By the 2280s, the suit had become the standard issue power armor within the Brotherhood of Steel, with everyone from the lowliest of knights to Arthur Maxon himself charging into battle in the T-60. The T-65 was a suit of power armor created to be used by the United States Secret Service. Following the same design principles as the Secret Service's combat armor, the schematics for the T-65 were sealed in Vault 79 when the war began, along with Fort Knox's gold supply, only returning to the surface after the residents of Vault 76 managed to infiltrate the vault. The Hellcat Mercenary Company was amongst the most well-equipped groups in Appalachia in the early 2100s, even fielding a unique suit of power armor used by no one else. While its origins are unknown, the Hellcat power armor shares clear design elements with the T-60 and X-01, hinting that it was possibly produced in between these models. X-01 was hoped to be the next step in power armor technology. Commissioned by the Joint Chiefs right before the end of the world, X-01 was designed to be more protective and sleeker than the T-Series. The beverageers of Nuka-Cola, who were covertly working for the military, were even given a single suit which they tested an experimental strontium-90 based plating on. Before the design could be finalized, however, the world would come to an end. With the schematics stored in the White Spring bunker, the remnants of the US government housed there would send the planes to Control Station Enclave, where the design would be refined into the Advanced Power Armor Mark I. The X-01 itself still sees use, however, by the likes of the Institute, who have developed a special polymerized casting mix to coat the armor with. Advanced Power Armor Mark I was the finalized version of the X-01 power armor. Created by the Enclave, the remnants of the US government on their oil rig base, APA's design was able to fix the flaws of its predecessor. Used by the Enclave for decades, the insectoid helmet became synonymous with the terror the government would inflict on citizens of the wasteland until their oil rig was destroyed. Advanced Power Armor Mark II was the next step in the Enclave's power armor development after the Mark I. Beginning development on the Enclave's oil rig and deployed in limited quantities at Navarro, the Mark II would see the most use on the East Coast in the Enclave's war against Lyons' Brotherhood of Steel, where the armor earned the nickname the Black Devil because of its horned helmet. Hellfire power armor began development in the years following the Great War. While a functional suit existed as early as 2080, when it was requisitioned by the ZAX unit of Vault 51, the design was not finalized until centuries later, when the Enclave finished it, diverting resources from the Duraframe iBot project to complete the armor. The suits were issued to specialized flame troops armed with heavy incinerator napalm launchers, a perfect weapon for the flame-resistant armor. After the fall of the DC Enclave, a suit of the armor has fallen into the hands of the Forged Raider gang in the Commonwealth, worn by the aptly named Pyro. In what is now the Gleaming Depths sits an Enclave research facility dedicated to the study of Ultracite. Guarding this facility were Enclave Squad Epsilon, an elite team of Enclave soldiers clad in the experimental Vulcan power armor. These soldiers would soon fall victim to the Scorched Plague, with two of the operatives, codenamed Python and Wasp, going feral, leaving the remaining operatives, Lynx, Bloodhound, and Vulture, to be forced into stasis until a cure could be found. While the facility has long since been abandoned by the Enclave, Squad Epsilon still remains in the Gleaming Depths, protecting its secrets. While Squad Epsilon would be forgotten by their superiors, their armor would not. Development would continue on the Vulcan armor, and an advanced version of it would be worn by the Enclave's enforcer in the 2240s, Frank Horrigan. As the New California Republic grew, it needed a way to deal with the most dangerous predators in the wasteland: Deathclaws. The NCR's answer to this monstrous threat was the Ranger Power Armor, a suit of armor made specifically for wrangling these beasts. Equipped with forearm-mounted blades for close range, a back-mounted missile pod for long range, and a jetpack for maneuverability, the Ranger Power Armor allows the NCR's Rangers to confront Deathclaws in a manner never seen before.
Thanks to this suit, I'm the only one that wins this fight. Period.
In the years since the Great War, the various raider gangs of the wasteland have salvaged power armor frames and created their own suits of armor using scrap metal and rusted rebar. While it lacks the sophistication of the suits made by the military, Raider Power Armor is highly customizable and has proved a favorite of various raider gangs across the wasteland. Some of these custom suits include Tessa's of the Gunners, who built an especially hardy fist, making the armor's punching ability even stronger. The Forged have built a special suit impervious to fire, and Overboss Coulter's of Nuka World has been modified to draw power from the Cola Cars arena, making it nigh unbeatable. Just, don't get it wet. Scabby's gang set themselves up in the Wilson Automatoys corporate HQ, hoping to use its supply of giddy-up buttercups to repair their power armor. Scabby, however, came to love one of these toys, naming it Betty. The gang wouldn't be kind to Betty, destroying her and making fun of Scabby for being a grown man obsessed with a pastel-colored horse. Enraged, Scabby would build a special suit of power armor out of scavenged giddy-up buttercup parts, intent on taking revenge on those who had wronged him. Unfortunately for Scabby, though, the Automatoys HQ would soon be overrun by supermutants, killing him before he could enact his plot. By the 9. As the Sino-American War raged, and American troops landed on the Chinese mainland, the People's Republic of China attempted to produce their own suits of power armor to counter the Americans. While these would never see combat, the mere threat of communist power armor was enough for the US to develop the Pulse Gun, an electromagnetic pistol that could serve as a countermeasure against power-armored foes. V63 is incredibly technologically advanced, leading to them being armed with a levy of advanced weapons and armor. Among these is a suit of power armor. While this suit of smooth chrome was originally used by the Vault's security forces, after the failed activation of the Vault's weather control machine, much of the Vault's population were turned into crazed, electrified ghouls, leaving control of the Vault's power armor supply in the hands of these lost dwellers. Even after the apocalypse, two things remained inevitable: death and taxes. And the Atlantic City municipal government does not allow tax evaders. In order to enforce their taxes on the citizens of America's playground, the Muni IRS's leader, only known as Buttercup, wears a special suit of power armor known as the Civic Duty Armor. While it's unknown where the armor came from, the chest plate bears the Vault-Tec logo, hinting that the company was possibly involved in its creation. In space, no one can hear your terrible acting. And terrible acting ruled television before the war. So much so that the United States Space Administration sought out Hubris Comics, the creators of Captain Cosmos, for a collaboration, hoping to increase public support for the USSA's Mars Shot project. As part of this collaboration, the USSA provided a fully functional suit of power armor themed after the titular spacefarer to Hubris, for use in Captain Cosmos' season finale, where he faced the feared giant cockroach from Mars. The finale was shot on October 23, 2077, meaning the armor still sits on the soundstage in Hub 360 in Boston's Theater District.